If you or someone you know is struggling with alcoholism or addiction, do not hesitate to reach out for help. You can find numerous free resources on our website, thebeginagainpodcast.com, and there are tons of resources and support networks available online, in person, or just a phone call away. You don't have to face this challenge alone. Welcome to the Begin Again podcast. I'm your host, Gary Menkes. On the Begin Again podcast, we delve into the inspiring journeys of individuals who have overcome alcoholism and addiction and emerged as true trailblazers in entrepreneurship, business, sports, and beyond. Through authentic, uplifting, and profound conversations with our guests, we aim to shatter the stigma surrounding addiction and demonstrate that recovery can be a catalyst for remarkable success, strength, and resilience. We firmly believe that by listening to these accounts, you will be empowered to unlock your own potential, instigate positive change in your life, and contribute to the creation of a better world. So, get ready to be inspired and embark on your own personal journey of growth with the Begin Again podcast. Welcome back to the Begin Again podcast. I'm your host, Gary Menkes, and with us today is Dr. Robb Kelly, founder of the Robb Kelly Recovery Group. Dr. Robb has shared the stage with the likes of John Maxwell and Ed Milet and has an amazing story of how he successfully overcame addiction to where he now helps others reach their full potential. Robb has overcome homelessness, alcohol dependency, trauma, PTSD, and a whirlwind of events to be called the Gordon Ramsay of the addiction world. Before Robb succumbed to addiction and mental health issues, he played bass guitar at Abbey Studio with the likes of Queen, David Bowie, and Elton John. His success as a musician helped him attend Oxford University to pursue a PhD in psychology. Dr. Robb experienced a spiritual awakening on the cold streets of Manchester while homeless and in dire straits. His work ethic is defined by helping the addicts step out of their disease and into a solution. He works with everyday people, professionals, and celebrities who want to find sobriety and live in sustained recovery through evidence-based modalities and a genuine therapeutic alliance. Robb believes in helping marginalized communities because he understands that everyone has different worldviews when addiction is rearing its ugly head. Dr. Robb appeared on The Doctor Show on CBS, has publicly spoken out about opioids and lectures at the University of Texas at San Antonio about addiction and recovery. Dr. Robb, thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Gary. Great to be here. Hey, guys, great to be here as well. Good to meet you all.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, Dr. Robb, let's just dive right into it. Your story is amazing. We talked a little bit quickly off camera that we'll hear some more stories. Obviously, I know you've got them, but we want to focus on some solution. But let's talk about how it was back then.
It was crazy back then. Took my first drink at the age of 9 and just the world lit up then. It was on stage in Liverpool, England. I was playing with my musical family. And the first half, we did 2 halves, 2 30-minute spots. The first one, I froze, loads of people in there. And during the break, my uncle gave me a half a beer or something to drink. I drank that half a beer and the whole world just changed right there and then. And I continued doing that throughout school, high school. Obviously, I went to college because I came from the council estates, which is the projects in America. No money. My dad used to dig roads for the gas company, and my mother used to clean other people's houses. Wasn't a lot of money around. Great love, great family, and yeah, it kind of just went from there, man. I mean, I remember, glimpses of that, drinking. I'd get periods of sobriety, and then, I'd go off on one, and I become mildly successful with my company. Did the big house, the cars, which kind of masked my alcoholism for a long time. It's like, look what I provide. But eventually got married, had a first child, didn't stop me. Second child didn't stop me. I remember stabbing my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. That's the crazy place I was in. Driving 100 miles an hour, my 2 babies in the car whilst drinking a bottle of vodka from the bottle on the freeway. 4-hour journey. It was just insane, the stuff I did. And eventually my wife left and she took the children with her, ages 1 and 3, and rightly so. And shortly after coming out with the big house and the cars, I was homeless. And I always remember the first time, Gary, on the streets, the first night, it was freezing cold in Manchester, England. It was pouring down with rain. And I sat on this bench crying, and the thought hit me, where the hell did that just go wrong? What happened, And I was the last person to find out. And yeah, just spent 14 months on the streets and hurting people, knocking people out, stealing their wallets, stuff like that. Bare knuckle fighting to win money. And if I couldn't earn any money properly, I'd go steal. I'd go steal vodka and stuff like that. And I was drunk for I was drunk for about 3 years, to be honest, before I was homeless, constantly. And then, of course, homeless, I was in oblivion every single day because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle my children being taken off me. I couldn't handle my wife rejecting me. My parents would have nothing to do with it. My brother and sister disowned me. Friends ignored me. And, I remember just begging on the streets for like 10 pence at a time, which is kind of 10 cents. And if I did 10 deals, I could buy a can of that really cheap, strong beer, in the supermarket around the corner. That's how I live life,
Amazing. I can relate to the, everyone else knows that I had a problem except for me. I was by far the last one. And I can relate to the violence and to the fist fights and all that stuff. I have a record that proves all of that. But how old are you, Dr. Robb, when you're on the streets of Manchester? I mean, you have a family. I didn't realize you had a family at the time. How old are you now?
26, 27.
26, 27 years old. And how long are you out there for?
14 months.
You're out there for 14 months homeless.
Yeah. In actual fact, if I'm going to be honest, Gary, I got quite comfortable out there, and there's a couple of reasons why I did. I'm streetwise. Even though I went to a great university, I'm streetwise. I can fight anything and anybody. I wasn't scared back in the day. And secondly, I had no worries of making the mortgage payment, looking after the kids, making sure it was all taken off me. I could just get drunk with no responsibility whatsoever.
It's amazing. You remind me the first time I went to rehab and went upstate to a place called St. Christopher's. Went up there for 30 days. It was the first time I ever said, my name is Gary and I'm an alcoholic. And I relate to that because it was the most kind of relaxing, like check out of life 30 days of my life. And I lied through my teeth a lot there. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought my life was over. I said, but all I remember doing, I was going to the library. I read a ton of books for those 30 days. I smoked at least 2 packs of cigarettes every day, but kind of what you're alluding to right there was just kind of checked out of life for 30 days. I didn't have a family or anything like that back then, but I can relate to what you're saying there.
Yeah, it was, it was just some dark days, unfortunately. And, I'd get arrested so many times. I got 3 DUIs in one day, 3 DWIs, intoxication, 3 days. Because I used to be in the police force when I left college. And I knew these guys. They go, Rob, I got to take you in. I take you in. And I'd be sat, not in the jail cell, but just outside it in the waiting area. And the sergeant would come along, come on, Rob, you got to get on, man. But listen, don't you go back for that car. Sergeant, I'm not going back for the car, okay? Get back to the car, drive about 100 yards, they'd be watching me, pull me over again. And back to there, and the third time, I didn't have the keys in the ignition, but they were on the side seat and they arrested me again. And if it would have been 3 driving while drunk, I'd have gone to prison. But it was 2, and driving while intoxicated and in charge or something, because the keys were on, they couldn't charge me with the 3rd one. So right. I kind of got away from jail. I spent 1 or 2 nights overnight jail at the police station, but it was only me in a cell. But yeah, apart from that, I was pretty lucky. I used to get arrested, quite often just because, I was a drunk. Sleep on benches, underneath trees. I sleep in hospitals, get some warmth now and again, and they tell me to leave, and I go and hide somewhere, and the police would come and arrest me, and it's just nonstop, man. It just become crazy.
And on and went. 3 days, 3 DWIs in a day. That's a first good one to hear. Sorry for laughing. I'm not sorry. It's a good story.
No, it's funny.
So what happens though? You're out there for 14 months, Dr. Robb. What happens? Where does things turn for you?
Well, I'm angry. I'm pissed off. I'm annoyed. I'm rejected. I'm living in fear. I'm living in abandonment, and I'm drinking every day. One evening, early hours of the morning, probably Monday morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why, but I'm walking down, I call it the back ends of Manchester, factories and offices, not a single person in sight. And I dropped down, it was pouring down with rain, and I dropped down to my hands and knees one day, and I was crying from my belly, like sobbing. And I always remember this, it was yesterday. I was on all fours. The rain was hitting the back of my head, coming around, mixing with my tears and hitting these cobblestones and turning purple. And again, don't know why, I looked up to the sky and I said, if there is a God up there, I can't do this on my own anymore. And about 30 seconds later, a guy walked around the corner. Now, There's nobody supposed to be there. He's missed his last bus home from Bible study. He took a shortcut to his house he's never taken before, and he came across me. That is where it all changed for me. He said, do you want help? And I said, yeah, I'm dying. This is after 7 attempts of suicide, and on 2 occasions it worked. I was pronounced dead, and they brought me back to life. Them pigs. I hated them people for that. But that's where it started, right there.
Amazing. You hated the people for bringing you back to life. Is that what you just said?
Yes, I hated them because I didn't want to live, man.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live. I couldn't live without alcohol, and surely I couldn't function with it. So now I know the neuroscience behind that, which is amazing. But at the time, I didn't know why I couldn't stop drinking. I really couldn't. So when I was on my hands and knees crying, I wasn't in the streets before the guy came along. I wasn't crying because I lost my wife, all my kids, all my houses, all my license to practice, all my mum and dad. I was crying for the first time in my life. I realized I couldn't stop drinking.
So that's the first time you have this epiphany. Yeah. You look up to the sky, speak to your higher power, your God.
Well, I didn't have a God. I was angry with everybody. You know, I went to church when I was a kid. I was a choir boy, choir master. And at the age of 9 and 10, my choir master molested me. He was also our head teacher. So, you know, God and stuff like that didn't even exist. And of course, everyone's taking my kids off me, my wife. I'm not believing in nothing. I'm angry against the world. That's why I said, if there's a God up there. But it changed, and it gets to an even crazier story a few nights after that, when, you know, that's where my journey started. And I'm so glad that he did. But yeah.
Yeah, let's touch upon it. So you say that, and there's this man who's not supposed to be where he is, takes a different route than where he always takes. Right after you say, if there's a God, show me. And this man shows up, and you said changes your life. What happens?
So it goes back to his house. Now, listen, first of all, the guy shows up in the middle of the night, says go back to his house. Nothing good happens at 2 or 3 o'clock. This guy wants to take me back to his house. So I'm wary. Beautiful man. I got bathed for the first time in, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months. I shaved all the hair off. I changed all the clothes that was sick and vomit all over it. And I sat downstairs with him drinking tea. And he said to me, Rob, I don't know you, but you can stay here for as long as you like on one condition. What's the one condition? You've got to come to AA with me. Well, I hated that meetings. I hated AA as a whole. But, you know, it was a dry bed for the night, so I went. This specific meeting, it all started, and sure enough, war stories, I drink this, I drink that. And about halfway around, this guy said, my name's John, and I'm a recovered alcoholic. And I looked at Derek, and he looked at me. I said, did he just say recovered? And Derek went, yeah. Well, he read from that book that they have in AA, and he read stuff that nobody's seen before. I know it sounds crazy. And then he talks about God. He talks about, you know, recovered. And so after the meeting, I went over to him and said, hey, John, my name's Rob. Would you sponsor me? And he said, no. And just before the ground opened up and swallowed me, because that was a long walk. It was about 10 yards, but it was a long walk for me to go and ask for help. He said, I'll be your spiritual advisor for a period of 12 weeks. I said, brilliant. What do I need to do? Get you that book and a Bible. Oh, no, get you that book and a dictionary. I had neither at the time. Every Wednesday, you come around the house. I think it was 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I can't remember that. No, 7 o'clock. I had to be there. Don't come any earlier. So I'd leave Derek's house at 6 every Wednesday for 12 weeks. I would walk there for 7. And he used to say to me, like, if you're at 10 to 7, don't come up. You need to be really looking after your time management. Make sure it's 7. So 7, we'd be halfway through a conversation, and 1 minute to 8, he'd stand up and walk me out, which I thought was freaking weird. So 12 weeks. Man, when I walked out of that man's house on the 12th Wednesday of going there, I felt like a different man. And he said, Rob, you've been chosen to help people. Your life's going to change from tomorrow. And I said, with all greatest respect, John, I'm living in this guy's house in the basement on a blow-up mattress. Nobody knows I'm there. I don't think my life's going to change. And he patted me on the back and walked me out and closed the door at 8 o'clock. I walked back that night really feeling good. My head was hot. My shoulders were back. Started to get some dignity, started to get some confidence. The very next day, I cleaned the house while Derek's at work, and he comes home lunchtime. My first question is, what are you doing home, Derek? And he went, the guy who sweeps the floor at the factory has just resigned. Do you want a part-time job sweeping the floor? I went, oh my God, yes. So we run back to the factory, and I'm cleaning the floor, and a few days later, the boss comes up and he goes, hey, you're funny, Rob. The guys like you. Do you want a full-time job doing it? I went, yes. A couple of days later, a week or two later, somebody gave me a little mini car to drive just to there and back to work, because it wasn't that good. But, you know, things started to look good for me, and I started to go back to the meetings and help people. So after about 3 weeks, I got my first pay packet. It was cash stapled to an envelope. I went to the gas station. I bought John a little teddy bear, so all I could afford, on a card. And I wrote on the card, "Thank you, John, for introducing me to God because he took the compulsion away." And I went back to I was so excited to give him this stuff, Gary. I went back and I went up to the door. I knocked on the door. No answer. Knocked on harder. No answer. The woman at the right-hand side came out and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, where's John? Where's he relocated to?" "Well, yeah, I can't, what?" He went, "John." I said, "Yeah, John, your next door neighbor." She said, "I've only been there 3 months, but there's been no one in there that I know of. I don't know. You think you've got the wrong address." Closes the door. I looked at the address. It's the exact place I went. So I went round to the left-hand neighbor and banged on the door. Big guy comes to the door. "What do you want?" I'm like, "You tell where John's moved to?" "John who?" I said, "Your next door neighbor, John. I've been coming here for 12 weeks. And he said, "You can't go in that apartment. It's derelict. You walk in that door, you fall down to the basement. You can't, it's unsafe for you to go." Slam the door on me. I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? I had this great idea to go back to the meeting where I met John. And as I walked in, the same chairman was like, "Oh my God, is it Robert?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "John's still coming here." And he said, "John?" I said, "Yeah." And now I'm sick of people saying John with a question mark.
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, John, I was recovered. I was over near the coffee machine. We had a good chat." And he said, "Rob, you were over near the coffee machine speaking to yourself. We've never found that man, Gary. In actual fact, I put the best private detective when I started to get wealthy in Manchester to trace him, and nobody's seen of him and nobody's heard of him."
But you were going to this man's apartment where you were told after these 12 weeks that it's a derelict apartment and there's nothing in there.
Yeah. And for 15 years, I would not tell that story. A, because people won't believe it, and B, because it's just so crazy. I mean, people say, "You're crazy, you're insane." And I didn't want to hear that, so I never told it. Until you get to a certain age where you really don't give a shit what people think. I started to tell people. And most people go, "Oh my God, let me tell you my experience." It's amazing how many people have had similar experiences. But here I am all these years on. And, I promised myself, Gary, if I ever got off the streets, and only 3% of people in Manchester, England, in Piccadilly Gardens get off the street. The rest die on the streets. That's just a cold stone fact. So I was lucky enough to get off, first of all. So I always used to say to myself in the cold, underneath a tree with a blanket I found pouring down with rain, that if I ever got off the streets, I'm going to spend the rest of my life. And I had like a vision of, it's not only the alcoholic, it's the family. It's not only the alcoholic, it's the family. And when I say alcoholic, I mean drug addiction as well. And that's what I did, man. We got off the streets and I aggressively attacked this industry, and I really didn't give a shit what people thought, because the program that I run is different to anybody else's program. And people laughed at me, and the medical fraternity tried to burn me, and friends and people in meetings scoffed at me, but I kept going. I knew I was onto something. People were getting well around me. A lot of it was that big book in AA. I was preaching and teaching from that, and philosophy and psychology. And we have a program now that has a 97% success rate. It's unheard of in the industry, but we back it up. You relapse after leaving us whilst following our program, we'll refund your money. Nobody does that because nobody can. It's the bottom line. So yeah, we're very aggressive at what we do. We're very proud of what we do. But yeah, it's a life or death deal what we're on now, and everybody in my company knows that.
How many people are in your company today, Rob?
There's probably around 12 of us. Not very big. We have 4 offices around the world. We have Manchester, Canada, Dallas, and San Antonio. And now and again, we have our girl go over to Switzerland.
That's one of the most incredible stories that I've ever heard, and I love it. And to date, it's the most incredible stories that's ever come on this podcast. So I thank you for sharing that. Are you able to put your finger on any more of that? Have you come to, I guess closure is the wrong word, but what happened? What do you think happened there?
I think it was an angel. And again, 20 years on, still not sure. Then again, stop caring about what people think. I had to be an angel that come down. The stuff that he's shown me that I get people well today is impossible. I mean, it's impossible. I speak at the highest levels, conferences, medical places, hospitals, TV, talk about neuroscience and addiction as a whole, and neuroscience and childhood trauma. But it has to be, You know, there's got to be a spiritual connection. You know, fundamentally, children are born with a spiritual connection. It's just, it is that way. It's been tested and tried. We've done loads of trials and tests about everything I'm going to talk about today. And Uncle Jimmy, universe, God, Yahweh, Yeshua, you know, anyone you want to mention, but there has to be something up there that's connecting with us. See, babies are born with two fears, Gary: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. The rest are man-made. Wait till your father gets home. If you don't pass the exam, all this crap that we hear from other people, you know, there has to be a connection that keeps us sane. I don't know about you. When I talk to people like me, they should have died 50 times over, and we haven't. The question is, why haven't we? That's the key that I drum home today. You have been chosen, period, to do this stuff. And I honestly believe that. I believe nobody sits in front of you by mistake. We're 30 years on now. I'm not saying this as 8,000 patients. It's not just a whim or a couple of hundred. We used to hold patients 300 at a time in a huge library. They gave us a room back in Manchester. So yeah, there's a different side to addiction that you've been programmed to think what addiction is. You've been programmed to think it's the drug and the alcohol problem. It's not. Alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism, the same with drug addiction. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. It's not the freaking alcohol. It's this.
And that's where you focus on. I can't wait to hear about this, but I have to ask you one more question before because I want to hear all about this too. Is so you're out in the streets in Manchester, but you have this vision while you're in your disease. Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me because, you know, it took me so long to even maybe I was just such a skeptical, full of fear young man when I was out in my disease. The last thing that ever entered my mind was to help another person, especially when you're thinking that, you know, everyone around you is out to get you, you know, and that's kind of how I felt. But it's only since coming around for a while and been sober, God willing, 17 plus years today, which is amazing. If you knew me before then, it was an impossibility. I don't know if I ever counted 50 times, but I am one of the people for certain. And I think that I'll have family and friends that would back that up wholeheartedly. I'm very lucky and very blessed to be still here. But I think it's amazing to me that you have this in you, or you had this in you while you were in that disease and you were in one of the lowest moments of your life on the streets, but you still had this vision that one day, if I get out of here, I'm going to help people.
There's two things I realized on the streets. First of all, visions that I knew if I got off the streets, I knew that I would help people. But the second one is, you got a picture under a tree, all vomit, no shoes on. Someone stole my shoes, almost shivering to death because it's so cold. But I always knew that I would amount to something. Isn't that crazy? I mean, the chances of me amounting to something from where I come from, first of all, and secondly, being homeless is humanly impossible. I had to have God's help. It's humanly, you can't do it. It's humanly impossible where I come from. The way I get to university is a freak accident. You know, a friend of mine whose dad was a Freemason, they were having a big occasion. They didn't have an organist. He asked me to join, but you've got to become a Freemason at 16 to go into that's how I got into university. I couldn't have got in. We couldn't afford that stuff. I wasn't that smart. Everything seemed to have happened. And then when I was homeless, everything seems to happen after that follows. Now, when I look at my homelessness while I was in that disease, it was the worst thing ever that a human being can be put through. But when I look back today, it was like a semester at Harvard University. The knowledge I got, because people come today, Gary, and they go, hey, what do you know, Dr. Robb? I've seen the big house and the car, and I've seen your Rolex. And you don't know anything about homelessness? Let me sit down. You've never lost your kids? Let me sit down. You know, you've never done da-da-da. Let me sit down. Let me sit down and tell you exactly what I did, and then we can connect. So it's like I've been put through all this stuff, and people are like you, like me, put through all this stuff. So one day when you sit down, you're going to help another human being because you've been through it. I'm sorry, counselors and therapists, if you're not an alcoholic or addict in your past, you cannot help another alcoholic or addict. And if you get pissed off, do me a favor, call your sponsor and write a 4th step down or something, because I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you like it is. I remember going to find a therapist in San Antonio because I speak to somebody. Everybody needs to speak to somebody. And this is how I would test them. I'd go in and go, okay, so you're an alcoholic addict? No, but I have a master's master's in addiction counseling. Okay, so here's a scenario. If you had a bottle of vodka behind your back and I wanted it, what do you think I'd do? I don't know. I would repeatedly stab you in the face. Then I'd take my drink, just like I stabbed my wife 3 times to get my drink. She freaks out, going to call the police. I left. Twice that happened. The third one I went in and I said to him the same thing. I would stab you. And I do the thing as well, just to make it worse. I would stab you in the face loads of times. Do you know what that therapist said? Awesome. So would I. And I'm like, oh, he's my guy. He's my guy because he's been through that stuff. You know, he understands.
Yeah.
Alcoholics hear things different than anybody else. And we see things different than anybody else. And
amen to that.
I know.
You know, I love you.
That was one of the things we found. That was one of the scientific research things we done. And when I said it, people go, oh my God. Because, you know, childhood trauma in dysfunctional families. Me and my brother stood on the kitchen table once and my mom walked in and she says to both of us, well, you get down off that table before your dad gets in. Get down. My brother jumps off laughing. I freeze. Why have I froze? This is what I hear. Get down off that table, you stupid idiot. That's what I hear. We hear things different because of the trauma and the childhood trauma we don't think is trauma and it's lost in the subconscious brain.
I mean, this is, I love what you just said about having to be one of us. I totally agree. And, you know, I had this sort of epiphany recently before I started this, Dr. Robb, was that, you know, all the stuff that I had been shameful of, all the stuff that happened to me or all the stuff that I had done to myself while I was out there, I had this epiphany that one day I'm going to turn it all on its head. And this was a fairly recent sort of epiphany. I said, I'm going to turn it all its head and I'm going to make it a positive. And all this stuff, like I said, that happened to me or I had done, I am going to make this a positive and I'm going to help other people with it somehow. And you, with just saying that, sort of validated. And I love what you just said too, because I totally relate. And it's a total 100% fact to me, even though I've never heard it articulated exactly how you just said, of that alcoholics we speak a different language than only other alcoholics can understand.
It's true. And that's probably treatment centers. You know, I don't like treatment centers. They don't like me. Why? Why are you charging Johnny another $30,000 to come in your treatment center for the 4th time? Okay. So this is how I describe it. You have this house where the alcoholic is, dysfunctional family. Okay. Let's say they speak English, for instance. So what we have to do is we come along, we take that patient and we put them in our care. Recovery has its own language, as you know. So let's say English, let's say it's German, for instance. Now we're teaching how to speak German. Then what will happen is we pull them out, we put them back into an English speaking house. What's going to happen is going to start English again. So what we do is pick them out, put them with us, and we teach the household how to speak German. So when the guy gets back home, they're all the same. It's 7 days a week, our program, for 90 days and a step down. The wife or partner has to come on 2 days a week, where we sort her out as well. And what we found out is, let's say it's not always the guy, but let's say it is the guy. When the wife and anybody over the age of 18 that still lives in a house joins the program, because we won't take you if they won't come on, the recovery rate of that alcoholic goes up by 42% alone.
Wow.
That's before we start work.
So you're out there and you had this vision that you want to help people. I want to hear how you're working it now too. Like I want to hear how you got there, but I really am more interested in hearing about your day-to-day and how do you get your amazing results?
Well, we again, everyone focuses on the alcohol or the drugs. Nobody focuses on, you know, the disease itself, which is a mind-brain disease. So the mind sits inside the brain. What happens with alcoholics and addicts? First of all, alcoholics are born. It's a predisposition passed down from generation to generation. We're allergic to the ethanol in alcohol amongst basal ganglia is warped. The hypothalamus is warped. That finally tells us to drink alcohol. This is why it's a disease. It's not a choice. Drug addicts have the addictive personality. So they both present the same, but drug addiction does not have the allergy that alcoholism has. So it's that you've got to look at. The basal ganglia, ventral prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, the insula, and the basal ganglia are all different to any other person out there. We don't think like other people. Why are we concentrating on the alcohol? I'm sat outside a liquor store, newspaper thing. Can't sell liquor till 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm there at 5:30. It's snowing. I'm sat in a vest and a pair of shorts and flip-flops. I'm sweating profusely. I have a banging headache. I'm sweating and I'm in the worst mood ever. But my experience is one of two things going to happen. I'll either get alcohol straight away, or I'm going to go into hospital with DTs, delirium tremens. Either one. The guy knows me. He opens the door, lets me scoot, and he closes the door again, locks it. And I don't know what happened this day, Gary. I'm at £10 in my hand. I couldn't even speak to him. I was shaking out. And I put it on, and you can see his heart breaking, man, from it. He don't want to serve it, you know. He puts the bottle on the counter. On this one occasion, this is what happened. The shakes went, the headaches went, the sweats up. Now I'm in a great mood. And I looked at I've not even opened it, by the way. I looked at the bottle, I looked at him and looked back at the bottle. And I went, holy shit, it's not the alcohol. And that's what it all stemmed from. It's not the alcohol. So many years later, when we're up and we're moving and we've got loads of people working for us and we want to do trials and tests and experiments, we paid 5 people who are chronic relapsers on drugs. And we said, hey, we don't want to get part in it. It's horrible you're doing it. But if you do it, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's pick you up and drive you there. We'll give you, £20 and you do what you do and I will drop you off. Is that okay? They all said, yeah, of course. 5 of the people relapsed. So we went to pick him up, drive him there, done. What we told them as well is we're going to fit you up to see what kind of energy comes out, how we check the heart, we check the pulse. What was the most intoxicating part of all that I just told about, Gary? Was the journey there. The journey to the liquor store or the journey to the dealer. That's the most intoxicating part, where the body and the blood pressure had gone up and, the pulse was rapidly and we felt great. And, we know we're going to get there. We know the liquor store's open and it's just going to be a matter of time and you've called the drug dealer. And once you get it, obviously you take it back home and blacked out. But yeah, so when you look at things like that, you realize it's not the alcohol, it's not the drugs. That's the biggest thing we found. And then the second thing we found, or we work on today, is marijuana is not the gateway drug, guys. Trauma is the gateway drug. But when you say trauma, they go, well, I've never experienced a car crash or divorce. It's like, that's not trauma.
Right.
No, this is trauma. How many times have I told you, Robert, you can't go to college like your brother, you're too stupid. That's trauma. Uncle Jimmy touched me on the stomach. That's trauma. Yeah. See mom and dad fighting every night. That's trauma. And to the extent that, let's say a young girl, even 9, 10, 11, 5, 6, makes no difference. Dad comes home every night, he's an alcoholic. He beats mom most nights to get into a fist fight. She sees this. There's a couple of things she learns real quick. She learns to listen to the door. When the key goes in the door, does it a few attempts before it goes in? That means it's a bad night, I'm going to run. That's trauma. If it goes straight in, dad is going to be in a great mood. That's the first thing they learn. Second thing they learn is when they leave the house and start dating, they are going to attract the man that ends up beating them, okay, and ends up being the alcoholic. Why? Because it's learned behavior. That seems normal to the child. And what we found with our tests and trials is it goes to that extent that when the girl did leave and attract a really good guy, looked after her, she would self-sabotage that because it doesn't feel right. That's trauma. And once you've got that, most neural pathways in a dysfunctional family guy or girl with alcoholism or addiction, 80% are self-sabotaging. That means more likely than not, you're going to go down the same path of destruction. Okay? 300 neural pathways die every single day. The bad ones die every single day. And good ones, but the bad ones mostly. If we can replace them neural pathways, this is what we do as well, with good neural pathways, you can see eventually that you're going to get more good neural pathways than you are bad neural pathways. That's just a broad scan of what we do. And of course, the different parts of the brain. Stop thinking it's the alcohol and stop thinking it's the drugs. It's not. Alcoholism and addiction is not a behavioral problem. Okay, it goes way deeper than that. You've got to study the neuroscience behind what happens to the brain pertaining to the mental obsession. And then once we drink it, we have the allergy. We can't come off it. Our body gets sick. You've got to look at the way the brain and the mind works and how you keep relapsing and why you keep relapsing. Find your own identity, which we show you, push you forward, make you whole again, get you in touch with God, any God you want to get in touch with, and then move forward to be the person that you was always meant to be. I'm going to say this, guys, and don't freak out. Every alcoholic and addict there that's going through something right now, you have been chosen, my good man. And when you come out of this, because you will, you're not listening to this podcast by mistake, life It'll be amazing.
That's the best message, because that's why we're here, right? You just said right there, and I love that. We're going to highlight that, but you touched upon so much stuff that I can relate to. Dr. Robb, I'm one of the ones. Well, first of all, I didn't know what the word childhood trauma meant. I didn't know what childhood anxiety meant until I was way into sobriety. And, I'm sure you can relate. Growing up, you didn't share your feelings. Like, that wasn't like you were not even literally not allowed to do it. You get beat up for doing something like that, right? Like, you can't do that. And what's gotten me better is sharing my feelings and sharing with a sponsor and stuff. But I don't know the exact stats. I'm sure you do, but I know they're huge, that people, alcoholic people or people in addiction, are, I think it's close to 100%, have gone through some sort of childhood trauma.
100%.
Correct?
Well,
100%.
first of all, everybody has childhood trauma, but alcoholics and addicts, they have the worst childhood trauma, because that's part of the disease of how we act today, especially the addictive personality that ends up taking drugs. And when I say that, people go, I don't think that's right, Dr. Robb. 95% of people that come to us with a staunch heroin addiction started in the doctor's office. It's not about the drugs.
That's amazing. It's amazing too, which I've heard you say before, the story about when you grabbed the bottles, when you felt was when your everything was released and you were calm. And I love that how you talk about it's the anticipation of the addict or the alcoholic going to get their fix, which is really what they're after. And after they get it, then, like you said, they black out and they're off to the chase again once they come to. I come from generations of alcoholics, my mom's side, but I always thought, and I'm not even sure if it's accurate, but I always thought that it was me who, they didn't force it down my throat. They didn't make me drink. I acted a little bit different than they did. They didn't get as much trouble as I did, but I also had childhood trauma. Again, this is stuff that I held on to my whole life. Stuff having to do with my dad, a very active dad. My dad was very heavily into cocaine. Trauma. I was terrified if he was going to come home or not come home. I would find, there was rough guys in and out of my house all the time. Sometimes they were nice, sometimes they weren't nice, but that's all how you described the key going through the hole really, made me take a deep breath, if you will, because I think that is powerful. But
you
were working.
People don't know. This is stuff that people are absolutely amazed at, and just, what you got to remember is, let's look at the neuroscience behind it. Neuroscience that we've been studying for years and years, that the medical fraternity only grasped over 10, 12 years ago. We've been doing this for 20 years. The whole thing was 30, but studying neuroscience. There's three parts of the brain, let's say in the alcoholic, that differ from anybody else. The basal ganglia, the hypothalamus, and the amygdala, where the trauma is kept. It's like a smoke alarm for. Let's look at the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is our repetition, strength, and confirms part of the brain. When you start driving a car, the very first lesson, it's huge, it's awkward, you feel nervous. After a few months, you pass your test. You can reverse down the driveway, calling the wife, waving to the girlfriend, listening to music, talking to a friend, all the same time. Why? Because the basal ganglia pick that up as repetition, strength, and confirms. Alcoholics are born with a defect. This is, and you'll realize this if you go to a certain AA groups, let's imagine it's a circle. We get sober, we get the job back, the wife comes back, the kids are awesome, we get a new job, we buy that car, then bang, 10 to the hour, we self-sabotage. All the time, unless that's fixed, you're never gonna get sober for good. If you're the real alcoholic. I'm not talking about heavy drinkers now. 95% of people in AA are heavy drinkers. They're not a real alcoholic. I'm just putting it out there straight away. But let's talk about the hypothalamus for a second. The hypothalamus from birth tells children, babies, they have to drink water and eat food to survive. It's a survival part of the brain. Without the hypothalamus, we would die on day 4 or 5 because there's no food or energy inside us. All the time, it keeps telling us that. It's a survival instinct. What happens with the alcoholic is at a certain point of our drinking career, the hypothalamus turns around and tells the alcoholic to drink alcohol only. That's why alcoholics will go days or weeks without food or water. When part of the brain is telling us to drink alcohol, or better off. That's why it isn't a choice. All bets are off. You're not going to drink alcohol because your mind is made up, your brain, and that's the only frigging thing that matters on a daily basis. Not the family, not the wife, not your crying children. I must get alcohol because the brain's telling me to. Boom. That's the way we do it.
And that's what the non-alcoholic, that's what the civilians will never understand, right? Like the jaywalker in the book. I remember sharing the jaywalker story in the book with my girlfriend, who was my wife at the time, which I love to say, but sharing the jaywalker story because I would just over and over and over just baffle everyone around me. Like makes no sense, but you're
Come on, Gary. How many times have I told you? Can you not just stop because of your children? Can you not just stop because of it? If we could stop, we would. Now, heavy drinkers that show up the same as alcoholics. Oh, Jimmy next door, he drinks every day. He must be an alcoholic. First of all, alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world. 10 DWIs do not make you an alcoholic. Warning from the doctor. No, it's none of that. What happens to when I drink that, something happens to me than anybody else in the world, apart from other alcoholics, that people don't understand. Is it's a biochemical reaction to the ethanol in alcohol, followed with the hypothalamus to basal ganglia that's distorted from trauma as a child, fear, anxiety, depression. Everyone's depressed. I'm depressed and I've got to drink some alcohol. When you get depressed, what do? You go to your friend or mom and I feel depressed. Oh, go to the doctor, he'll give you some pills, make you happy again. So I'll go to the doctor. The doctor says, yeah, you're really depressed. Take these pills. What are the pills, doc? Oh, it's an SSR. Don't worry. It's a slow release serotonin, make you feel good. Okay, doc. First of all, now you're stuck on that medication the rest of your life to feel happy. Secondly, the SSR suppresses our own serotonin. So you're never going to get natural serotonin and it gets worse and worse and worse. And thirdly, who the fuck is asking why my serotonin is low in the first place? Nobody. Nobody's asking that because nobody cares. Why? There's no money in recovery. They'd rather, you can't give you a pill or stick you in a treatment center and nobody wants to know. The world's gone mad.
You know, you hear this a lot, and I've thought this or I've questioned this too. And you just touched upon it about, you said the career of an alcoholic, right? Do they hit? Is it possible in your opinion that, you know, maybe what started out as a heavy drinker past a certain, you know, line in the sand, if you will, where there's no coming back?
100%. That's exactly. Every alcoholic has lots of things in common. Well, first of all, they start off as that occasional drinker. Then they turn into that heavy drinker. Now, you know what the book says. Given a sufficient reason, a warning from the wife or doctor, that heavy drinker or abuser of alcohol can stop or moderate. The alcoholic cannot, but you have to go through the 3 P's to realize there's no going back for me, you know? There's no going back. I don't drink because I want to drink, by the way, guys. I was drinking vodka. First of all, you can't smell it. A load of bullshit that is. Comes out my pores. And secondly, I did it to feel normal. I used to drink at 4 o'clock in the morning just to feel normal, to be able to drive to work.
Yeah.
You know? And these are the things that we need to know. More information, more dialogue about what the disease is. You know, it isn't a choice. But people and layman people think it is. But the more education, the more conferences we do, guys, there's 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, 100 million people out there doing exactly what I do. Not to the extent of what we do it, because we're far more advanced when it comes to the psychology behind it. And there's millions of treatment centers that are awesome on the same page as us. But there's also a lot of people earn a lot of money from this industry. We don't play that game. We turn down more people than we take on. This is life or death. I turned Britney Spears down for $1 million 12 years ago, 30, 40, 50, I don't even know how long, when $1 million was like, oh my God, but she wasn't ready. And the next morning she was in the papers, shaving her head and everything. It's like, you've either got to be ready or you haven't. You can't do this program or get sober if you have any inkling that this is not final. Because I knew for a long time that this wasn't my last drink. I knew. I stayed sober 6 months. I always knew from day one, this is not my last drink. I asked somebody today, I asked all people I work with, are you done? Well, yeah, are you done? Okay, yeah, are you done? And if the answer is yes, then we think about taking them on. And that's when we assess them. You know, everybody can recover. Everybody can have a life beyond the wildest dreams. Quantum physics backs this up, by the way. And life can be amazing. The mind is a very powerful tool. And anybody listening out there, some scientists, maybe, I don't know, you know, really into science and the brain and the mind will realize and know what I'm talking about. 95% of the population have no idea how powerful your mind is. Train your mind to train your brain, to train your body, to train your life. It's not that hard once you realize that it can be done. So how do I explain that? Well, let's jump into quantum physics for a second. Quantum physics says, let's say a basketball court, there can be 12 places on that court at the same time because nothing's real. So visualize, guys, at home now. Just close your eyes for a second. Visualize a basketball court. Visualize you on it, spread around 12 times. You got it? Yeah. Now, I've never played basketball, but I'm not silly. I know that if I'm over near the net and I get the ball and slam it in, I'm going to be the hero of the game. Can I visualize myself there? Oh, yeah. Can you feel deep down inside the feeling that you will have with that program? Oh, yeah, yeah. How do I get there? You walk over and you take that position. You don't beg for it. You don't crawl for it. You visualize it. Walk over and take that position, no matter what position it is in life. Believe it. Feel it. Walk over and take it, man. Nobody cares. You know, nobody's walk over and take that position. And if it's a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, how can we make steps to get to that? Because the mind is so powerful, man. And the connection with the energy, earthing is real. Go out and stand bare feet on a grass or sand for 20 minutes a day. You're getting rid of that negative crap that you've been carrying around. Visualize, write 5 things down every day that you're going to achieve that day. I'm going to do this. And you might do 100 things, but then 5 on the list. If you only collect 4, you've failed. You're going to relapse. Get your shit together. Do all 5, and the brain goes, oh, I like this winning. I must be pretty good at this. Bang, 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 bang. Believe you can do it. Alcohol is not the problem. Drugs are not the problem. Childhood trauma is the problem. Clear it up. Forget about the alcohol and get your freaking life back. That's what it's about. Everybody can do this. Unless you have brain damage, everybody can do it. Well, I'm in a wheelchair. You can do it even more. Imagine the people that are looking up to you. Because every single person that's listening to today has been chosen, man. If you're in that industry or disease that I was, I've recovered from that bullshit now. You can't say recovered, Rob. Well, let's look at most of the stuff in the book is from the Oxford English because of the Oxford group before AA. The reason why it's the Oxford group is most of them guys went to Oxford University. So when you look in the book, recovered, does that mean I'm cured? 2 different words. Go by a dictionary. Recovered means to gain one's health and state of mind. That's all it means. Can I drink again? Well, I probably could if I wanted to, but I'd be dead. There's no coming back for me. Somebody said the other day, can you not just drink 1 drink, Rob? I went, well, we kind of have plans for Christmas, to be honest. So I best not take that drink today. I was from Robert Downey Jr. because I just might not make it. And it's true. Life has to be a billion, not 100, 1,000, a billion times better than it was when I was drinking. I have to be working with a billion other people and doing my own stuff with people and making them happy. If I'm, and you know, oh, well, you know, me saying something to somebody doesn't really matter. They're not going to care. Next time in a built-up area of people, sneakers are always the best. See someone nice sneakers on and go, hey, man, nice sneakers. 4 words, okay? He's going to go, oh, thank you. Turn around as he walks away from you. He's going to look down at his shoes at least 3 times. Now you just changed his whole day. Now he goes on to the girlfriend or wife, and because he's in a great mood, now she's in a great mood. And because she's in a great mood, the mother-in-law calls and he goes on and on and on. For what? 4 words? Hey, man, nice sneakers. People say, oh, you can achieve anything you want. You know what you used to say to me years ago, Gary, you go, well, I can't be president of the United States. Forget your political views for a second. We had a freaking businessman, good or bad, running our country with no political experience. Don't dare tell me that you can't do something that you make your mind up to do. Mind, remember the brain is different. Mind, the brain is matter. Mind over matter. That's what it means.
I love that because I am a big believer and a big proponent in everything that you just said. I believe that, and I never articulated like you did, sir. I do believe that if you can overcome this alcoholism, you can get sober. If you can overcome your addictions, recover, like you said, that there you can achieve anything and everything that you put your mind to. And yet I am filled with rooms of people that I admire and look up to, myself included at times, that are overcome with fear of financial insecurity. All of my fears, though, are projections into the future, whether that's tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, that I'm not going to be able to provide for my family. I'm not going to be able to do this or that. And then it's all self-centered fear. And I'm going to venture to say having to do with some of the childhood trauma and growing up feeling I am not enough. I am not smart enough. I am not good looking enough. I am not enough around the board, across the board, which has been one of my biggest problems. But you're explaining to me, which I totally agree with. It has all to do with my childhood trauma.
Of course it does. You know what they call people like me and you? There's smart people around. You know what they call people like me and you that's recovered from that shit? They call us geniuses. I started that method. We're geniuses. Absolutely geniuses. We can do anything that we want to do at any time. Every single body can recover from alcoholism or addiction. If you're anxious, you're in the future. Stop thinking in the future. Stop. If you're depressed, it's the past. What about today? What can I do in the 24 hours? Different parts of the brain reprogram every 24 hours. That's where it comes from. It's not an AA thing, by the way. It goes way beyond that to the philosophers. Every 24 hours, it fixes. When we go to bed on a normal circadian rhythm, between the hours of 2 o'clock and 5 is when our body is at our lowest. It's also when most people die of natural causes, because we're at our lowest. When we wake up ready to go, the reason why nobody ever has woke up laughing in the morning, lack of oxygen. Oxygen is we only breathe like 25-30% of our capacity. No wonder we're not having a great day every single day. When oxygen is present equals the absence of disease. Every disease that mankind suffers from internally, inflammation, heart problems, whatever it is we suffer from, all start in a hypoxic area. When oxygen is present, the disease cannot grow. Well, I have heart disease, Dr. Robb. My family does it. It's a family thing. Impossible. Or I have inflammation and arthritis. It's a family thing. Impossible. It's impossible to pass a form of a disease or illness through the generation. It doesn't happen. What does happen is the gene that we were born with and everything else doesn't methylate what we are eating. Some kind of stuff we're eating does not and causes that. So when this is the diet passed down. We get chips and gravy for dinner. It's passed down. Right there is the problem. Right. The methylation of certain foods is not like crude oil into gas. It can't convert it, so it causes that. It causes that illness or disease. But we want to make it a family thing. No, look at your life. I'm going to give you 3 things, guys, that you can do every morning. It's going to change your life. Completely change your life.
Lay it on us.
So first thing when you get up, again, no oxygen inside us. When you get up in the morning, I want you to get up, hold onto the bed or chair or something, and do 20 exaggerated breaths in and out like this. 20 times. Hold on, you're going to get dizzy. What we're doing is we're saturating the brain, and every single cell in our bodies gets saturated with oxygen. Best thing we can do. Then we walk into the bathroom. We look ourselves eye to eye in the mirror and say, I love you 10 times. It's going to feel stupid. It's going to feel de minimis. It's going to feel a waste of time. We're stacking that subconscious brain where all the crap's in. We're 300, they're dead, 300 back in of good. Now we're changing the way we think. When you brush your teeth with your right hands, for instance, do 1 week and then 1 week with your left. 1 week with your right, 1 week for your left. It's a fact, a human biological fact that neural pathways will change. We are people that like to stay in comfort zones. If you've ever been out on a trip anywhere with a bunch of guys, when I was drinking, you go to the seaside, when you get off the bus and you all have fun, at the end of the day, when you get back on the bus, which seat do you sit in? The same one you traveled there to. Where human beings are back in that comfort zone. Step out the freaking comfort zone and do it today. If you're listening to this, step out the comfort zone. If you did today exactly what you did yesterday, you're going to stagnate, especially an addiction person. If I stagnate, I'm going to relapse or I'm going to die. We have to be moving forward every day. I hate that saying, well, if I do today as I did yesterday, I'm going to keep sober. It's not about the alcohol. Fucking get on the same page. I'm doing it. No, you've got to grow every single day. You've got to compliment people. You've got to smile every day. You've got to be happy every day. It's not about you. My father died on a Wednesday. He died. I got the news from England. I was devastated, Gary. 2 days later, I was in an AA meeting teaching a book study. Did any of them know my dad died? No. Why? First of all, it's none of their business. And secondly, I'm there to inspire everybody I meet. I'm not there to bring them down like war stories. Nobody knew. A couple of you found out a couple of days later. How did you do that? It's what we do, man. If I could save one life a day, a week, a month, a year, I've done my job. You see, all that shit that I went through is worthwhile. When I see the smile on a family's face going, oh my God, we're so good now. We've had another child. The addiction's gone. That's me paid in full. I don't get involved in the money side of this business, but come on. If you can stop being selfish. It's not about you guys. You know, everybody who's listening to this, and this is after 30 years experience and thousands, if not 100,000 of TV, podcast, radio, paper, magazine interviews, is if you can get your shit together, like most people around you are waiting for you to do, you can change the world. Because let's put it this way, if you're not changing the world on a daily basis, what the fuck are you doing? You might as well go get drunk, go get wasted. It's not about you. We can do this together. Everybody's a natural born leader. Everybody is born with $1 million mind. Why the hell are you hanging around 10-cent minds? Because it comes from childhood. You'll never be this. You can't be that. There was a kid throwing kicking ball, throwing over here. And we'd say, hey, Jimmy, kick the ball to him. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a footballer. What about you, Billy? I want to be an astronaut. What about you, Jim? I want to be a professional swimmer. What happened to them dreams? I'll tell you, they were kicked out of us by family and friends. Don't be so stupid. You can't be an astronaut. Don't believe that shit. Show me your friends. I'll show you your future. Hang around the guys you want to be, not who you was. If you've recovered, if you want to get your life back, if you want to provide for your family, be happy, be the best dad in the world, the best son in the world, you've got to stop hanging around in the cesspool of them guys that want to drag you back, because they will drag you back. You've got to get away from that, because you have been chosen to do this shit whether you like it or not. And I'm telling you now, it's the best job in the world I ever had. I love what I do because I do what I love. Boom, baby.
Look at those guns too, bud. Holy cow.
62 years old, Gary. Still looking good.
Young, buddy. 62
yes.
Young, right? That's all in mind. That's only a number 2. Dr. Robb, I love your message. We don't hear about that enough. This is why I started the podcast is, again, I want to help one person today, but I want to help one person realize that they can completely change their life around. They can live a life beyond the wildest dreams. Cool. I say this all the time when I walked into an AA meeting, or we walk into a sobriety meeting, whatever you want to call it. There's no big giant sign in there. It says, hey, come on in. You can completely change your life. My life is a complete 180 from where it was. And, I'm 49 years old myself, Dr. Robb, and I have more dreams and more goals than I have ever had in my life, and I wrote all through my sobriety. And you have inspired me for sure. And I know you're going to inspire all of our listeners with your message today. I can't thank you enough for coming on here.
Of course. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I love coming on. And, people get on podcasts to promote, go to the website, buy the book. Then I don't need any of that crap. If you look at it and go, he does a great job, get onto the Robb Kelly Foundation. Give some money to that. And every dime you give goes to people out there. And what you get when you donate is you get a letter from the person that it's gone to, thanking you for that $5, $50, $100, $500. We do things differently. Don't call for, we don't want any more work. We sold enough books. I've got enough money. We're gonna donate 150,000 into that foundation before the end of the year. So if you want to do something good or think this is amazing, the Robb with 2 B's, Kelly Foundation, jump on there and donate if you can. Your dollar is worth it, Don't spend any money on ours. We don't need it. Come on.
I love that, because I was just going to ask you where we can find you, but you answered all the questions for me. We will put the Robb Kelly Foundation.com, correct? .org.
But a 501c3, guys. So, this time of year, November, December, you're getting ready to pay the tax man. Donate to us. We'll give you all the things you want to put to the tax man. Donate to another person who's struggling, not even alcoholic and addict, somebody who's struggling in life. You can give back. When you give back, that person's going to write you a letter and thank you and tell you what they're doing with that money.
What a beautiful concept and what a beautiful mission. I really love it. We will put that website on all the links and all the show links. We'll be able to find it. I, for one, am going to hang up and I'm going to go on that website as soon as we're done. And Dr. Robb, I'm big in keeping relationships up. I really appreciate you being here, and I really am grateful sincerely to have met you and that we're talking today. And I look forward to the next time we talk, and the next time either you're up in New York or I'm down by you. I look forward to meeting you in person, sir.
Beautiful, Gary. Yeah, we'll come and see you next year sometime, I promise you. Thanks, guys, for listening. If you've enjoyed it, my name's Dr. Robb Kelly. If you haven't, my name's Gary.
God bless you, sir.
My name's Gary Brecken.
Thank you for tuning in to another powerful episode of the Begin Again podcast. We sincerely appreciate your time and support. We hope that today's conversation has ignited a spark within you, affirming that recovery is not only attainable, but can also be a wellspring of strength and resilience. Our ultimate goal is to make a difference in someone's life every single day. By sharing these stories of redemption, we strive to empower you and inspire you to unlock your fullest potential, facilitate positive transformations, and contribute to creating a better future for yourself, for your loved ones, and the world at large. If you know someone who could benefit from listening to our show, please share it with them. And if you resonate with our mission and feel compelled to do so, we would greatly appreciate your support through a 5-star review, following us on Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel, The Begin Again Podcast. The more positive reviews we receive and the wider our message spreads, the greater our collective ability to help others realize that change is possible in their own lives. Thank you once again for being part of our community. May you be blessed on your own journey of personal growth and transformation.